The principal adventure or strategy for my creative writing for a dozen years now has been exploring the use of language in media other than the traditional one of small rectangular manuscript pages. For those dozen years, and then another dozen before that, I have spent most of my working days manipulating words. Words for articles and books, words for journalism and criticism, words for poetry and fiction, experimental prose, and much, much else. It should be understood at the beginning that I love language, and I love to work with language. From my earliest essays as a critic of literature and the arts, I, Richard Kostelanetz, have been committed to appreciating the innovative, to work that did not fulfill conventions but transcended them, often radically. And so it became inevitable that when I came to do my own creative works, the first around 1967, I began at a point far beyond the conventions of the time. My opening moves were visual poems, which is to say language-enhanced, primarily not in terms of syntax or semantics, but in terms of design. My next steps involved visual fiction, which is to say worded images in sequence, as in this summary of the opening book of the Bible, or in the football forms, whose letters portray the evolution of an offensive play in 4 images, or development, whose abstract shapes fall into a sequence that suggests a narrative about various kinds of constructive processes. At the same time, I was working with radical kinds of exclusively verbal fictions that were severely truncated or minimal, with only 2 words or less to a paragraph. Also by 1974, some of the better visual poems appeared enlarged as silkscreen prints. And one subsidiary benefit of that last move into visual art, as it is commonly understood, was propelling me out of the literary tradition of doing writing only on small rectangular pages. Indeed, what I'd also discovered with those prints was alternative forms of making public my work with language. That is to say, I discovered an alternative form for publishing my writing. A final foundation behind my video writing, as I call it, was a 1975 residency at a public radio station. Here I took some of my earlier literary texts, the minimal fictions especially, and exploited the unique resources of multi-track audio tape to publish them acoustically, in ways that I hoped were appropriate not just to the verbal text, but also conducive to the unique possibilities of audio. Now, having established my willingness to explore writing in the new media, I was invited in '75 to be a guest artist at the Synapse Video Studio at Syracuse University, where I worked not with a single engineer-producer as I had at the radio station, but with an institutional staff of young instructors, graduate assistants, and undergraduates. With their help, I realized video versions of earlier literary texts. Excelsior was initially a skeletal minimal story in which 2 people seduce each other in one-word paragraphs. Let's, no, yes, stop, now, please, later, relax, insist, don't, dislike, and so forth. To visualize the text on audio tape, I created 2 abstract designs and then swiftly alternated between them, letting the soundtrack eroticize the rhythmic, abstract imagery. Let's.
No.
Yes.
Stop.
Now.
Please.
Later.
Relax.
Insist.
Don't.
Dislike.
No.
Like.
Pooh.
Grumble.
Grumpy.
Kiss.
Yum.
See.
Yes.
Stimulate.
Resist.
Frustrated.
Control.
Virile.
Talented.
Charming.
Thanks.
Extra.
Ordinary.
Frigid.
Horny.
Sorry.
Okay.
Ambivalent.
Suppose.
Touch.
Nice.
Feel.
Oh.
Spread.
Groove.
Twist.
Closer.
Correct.
Warmer.
Let's.
No.
Reconsider.
Later.
Hand.
Maybe.
Wet.
Ah.
Warmer.
John.
Let's.
Not.
Let's.
Yes.
Pull.
Undress.
Down.
Gentle.
Man.
Easy.
Protection.
Sure.
Succeed.
Success.
Excellent.
Slow.
Can't.
Please.
Don't.
Impatient.
Ouch.
Relax.
Ease.
Better.
Okay.
Strong.
Soft.
Hard.
Up.
Words.
Onwards.
Deeper.
Over.
Later.
See.
Again.
Faster.
Yes.
Good.
Go.
Better.
Best.
Ow.
Ah.
Euphoria.
My God.
Together.
Great.
Congratulations.
Encore.
Later.
Fine.
Thanks.
Welcome. Excelsior.
Sure.
Another skeletal story, Plateau, tells of the development of a love affair in single-word paragraphs. Since the original text ends with the same words with which it begins, the phrases introductions, pleasantries, I decided such a circular form needed the technology of video feedback to create a kaleidoscopic moire pattern that changes slowly in no particular direction, complementing visually the directionless development, so to speak, of this fiction's special or familiar plot.
Introductions, pleasantries, silence, drinks, conversation, laughter, crackers, flatteries, acknowledgement, boastings, awe, ease, flow, cheese, invitation, hesitancies, explanations, reticence, encouragement, acceptance, departure, travel, arrival, hellos, table, drink, talk, dinner, smiles, dessert, cigarettes, coffee, bill, cordials, payment, gratitude, amenities, smile, blush, warmth, suggestion, departure, taxicab, elevator, hers, charming, invitation, drink, nuts, talk, kiss, entice, entwine, resistances, disappointment, hauteur, deflation, questions, explanations, diffidence, promises, essentials, assuaging, inflating, sparkle, kiss, embrace, envelop, squeeze, swing, squish, sway, swim, skin, roll, rock, rise, yes, ring, blush, red, gasp, sigh, ease, release, flow, relax, realign, repeat, respond, recede, excelsior, rest, compliment, whispers, tales, affect, embrace, quiet, sleep, sleep, awaken, smile, preenings, oranges, eggs, beginnings, repetitions, love, exchanges, expectations, relationship, cooperation, cohabitation, couplings, regularity, development, loyalty, discipline, familiarity, routine, promises, plateaus, expenses, exhaustions, boredom, depressions, crankiness, frictions, apologies, infidelities, fictions, reconciliations, deceits, recognitions, displeasures, recriminations, chilliness, rehearsal, illness, rejection, queasiness, terminations, tears, separation, plans, politenesses, realignments, vacations, isolation, questings, despair, introductions, failures, introductions, pleasantries.
My third early piece, I drew upon a more difficult literary text, a piece of experimental prose called Recyclings, that was made by subjecting earlier essays of mine to selective processes that destroyed their original syntax while retaining their characteristic language. What I did in writing this text was take earlier essays of mine and from each one of them extract words out of their original sequence, and by this method to make of the words for each past essay a single page of new, non-syntactic prose. The subtitle of Recyclings is a literary autobiography, since its 320 pages recapitulate, or recycle, everything I've written. During the earlier residency at the radio station, I decided to use multi-track audio tape for its particular capabilities. Essentially, I read a page of Recycling's text horizontally, one word after another, in the conventional way. But for the second page of text, I reread the text twice, likewise in conventional ways, however amplifying my voice differently from before, and starting to read the page's opening words approximately one line or a few seconds behind its predecessor. For the third page, I duplicated the same delay procedure 3 times, thus making a trio canon with 3 different amplifications of my voice. By the time I got to the 7th page, I transformed myself into a choral septet. With this fugal technique, I was aiming not for any specific juxtapositions of one word with another, but for continuous vertical relationships between different parts of the same text. For the video recyclings, I created the image of pairs of lips speaking, and as the voices in the audio realization are all mine, so are these lips. However, videotape differs from audio tape in that it doesn't have separate tracks. Rather than laying the versions apart from each other and then mixing them together as I did in audio tape, I had with videotape to lay them on top of each other. However, with each new generation of imagery, the video signal of the previous generations becomes less stable. As a result, the prior image becomes progressively weaker, which means not just that they become fuzzier, but that they lose their original colors. That degeneration of the signal strength explains why by the time 4 voices are speaking and 4 lips are on the screen, they all have different colors, incidentally epitomizing of self-surrealism as only contemporary technology can make it.
Art the No of Total, 1963. For after movement we now sure is. New theater began opening, Jack the Living. In York, July, the Winter Albies Puzzlers Zoo appeared. Double bill and puzzling of new theater, Beckett's tape then and have produced plays, leaders, movements. Includes Coppet, Brown, Yerby, Hivnor, Koch of have works in York Young, whose have in numerous and theaters the and others work yet get. The page defines new theater, not the name, simply signs identify new style first is sling catchword. Of absurd lasso all, only few, these absurdity, center existence, then example absurd. One completely it, another is formula, meta-theater by theorist Lionel. Helpful, defining new theater fact, that is common ground, the playwrights. Where do whoever shouting vociferous to common currency the years, sexual drama Tennessee, and social tragedy Arthur 3 forces, the American possible first most was post-war of new theater, by Eugene and Genet overthrew, of theatrical, of previous unprovided freedom made possible, the young playwright Europeans, that could both creating art and communicating to audiences. Second was emergence, the Broadway. True, the few success failed discover significant native, but Unterrecker and evergreen spring for first since early days ripe, the of new of America with courage, talent, experiment, prophecy quickly, what made new possible, aid dissatisfaction, what older were since few bridge and Arthur offered new. Though women regularly die at start, he claims, have ready this the Miller, that appeared the script misfits led who his work thinks something worse. Nothing on other has writing, rather same over, drawing his closet full Williams type, same skeletons new even irritating. The were gangs imitator such American, The Arts New, 1965. Contemporary demonstrates impetus, create forms, embodies themes, ethos, motivated artists since time continues. A force, artist, audience. What modern create, which distinctly is dissatisfaction. What artists doing truly need, engage, involving of times and hundred all important. Filmmakers, composers, writers, evolving of times and hundred all important filmmakers, composers, writers, Europe, America, provided young and against rebel history, seems be accomplished, impulse, create style, with great change, new century America, Europe war, the world, second era, art to end, to follow all by appreciably in respect 20th epitomizes, entire rich the historian Shapiro, to end, to follow all by appreciably in respect, political are accompanied, followed, shifts, which the of and styles recent processes, social aesthetic, have believed considerably past in overhauling every of years, world to transform genuine contemporary, with year more radically past acceleration. Key newness has recently become more value understanding art, and understanding itself leading to new materials, contemporary, predicament distinguishing from of far and near given aesthetic fertilization the of new most know, today, tomorrow, considered unless work offers expansion, formal, original, material, spectrum, possibilities, a perception, the aesthetic human of time, hypothetically, with newness be crucial, that the form imaginative, enjoyable, and valuable, acceptable be for reasons, to the direction today's, and appreciate best works, Europe, America, onlooker depend, modes, perceptions of base, the surely in, and rather must oft commit. Contemporary of Absurdity the Culture, 1961. This culture, Paul, absurd. The economic operative cars are and it to the to or capital produce. The human thee is here, culture, virtue, its reduction, the economic operative. This economy itself virtues to produce underrun its colors. Are there no children, young, yet are from physical, intellectual affairs, college personnel? Does include public, integrity, virtue, these no personal, physical, intellectual affairs, college personnel. Does not include public integrity, virtues, these no personal means oneself, personal means oneself, consequence of absurd, gain amoral, and system reputations is statistically minimize, eliminate, seriously great, system taken seriously, extreme, eliminated, extreme, eliminated, competent, yet history still personnel becomes using words traditional of idea, becomes using words tradition of idea transcends, growing traditional of ideas transcends, radical criticism, states failures. Society is failures, reflected in faces, apathy, subtitle V becomes youth, system major is made as completely scale, abstract created and suited humanity most means proving police becoming regulated, one deviant yet suppression, innate and variation increases behavior, reactions hence human, police cease spoke human problems, universities, becoming grounds, census takers, discipline laws, human is curious, rehab cars more than ever suspected crimes, completely obvious facts learning human life quality, life work laws, curriculum, in the system's work suit man, suppress humanity, suit in human initiative, skill, discourage, merit, measured, personality, valuable learning, or extracurricular of books, to learning, waste, extracurricular of books, to learning the it waste.
As this work is a lot more difficult than its predecessors, it also demands a lot more explanation. However, it is not impenetrable. Like so much else in contemporary art, recyclings must be seen or heard or read more than once to reveal itself. Indeed, the more often you hear it, the more of itself will be revealed. New, The Fiction American, 1965.
Perhaps most recent novelist John James Vladimir
Perhaps most recent novelist, the brilliant
John
Thomas
James
James
Vladimir,
Perhaps most recent novelist John brilliant Thomas Vladimir.
So sources, energy, radio, sophistication, courageous independence,
the resources,
most
energy,
the genius
transform
transformed
virtues
virtues
into
talent, most the genius transformed distinctly values talent, course, clear, most distinctly 1965, and reducing city floating 1956.
Moreover,
And the novels science fiction behind the potential of machines beyond. If comprehension were words, fiction time potential of machines beyond. Who accurate comprehension is beyond, and a appropriate reference language early 19th appropriate references have been sought and references a merchant interview of adventure, pages of pictures, one cook, age 30, a vow, preserved, invincible, poetry, and strategy, rather than merely sense, himself, Maryland says, praise the summary, all coincidence, all characters, moments of all characters, for moments to the contracted test, any note of factors, or systematically to Isaac Cambridge emerged refuge or for Cambridge emerged who Maryland is one American initials claims have so dexterously and one American history of John and George to air John and George first pornographic prose appendix and John was giving pornographic later.
This last work that I made at Synapse in 1975 is based upon my book Openings and Closings that also appeared in that year. It is a collection of single-sentence stories that are alternately either the openings of hypothetically longer fictions or the closings, again, of equally non-existent fictions. While each of these stories radiates either forwards or backwards, they have no intended relation to each other, and there is no intentional connections within the entire work other than the principle of scrupulous discontinuity. Here I decided to read the stories on camera one after the other, the openings in alternation with the closings. To enhance my reading in ways that would be impossible live and also impossible on audio tape, I instructed a crew of Synapse technicians to alternate between color cameras for the openings and black-white cameras for the closings, and connected each coloring system to its own camera crew. My second instruction was that each crew make its current visual image of me as different as possible from the ones before. My aim here was to realize visually the enormous leaps of time and space that characterize the book's text. Openings and Closings is, incidentally, the only creative videotape I've made so far in which an image, clearly recognizable as me, appears. My professional resume runs 3 pages. My Who's Who listing is a full 2 inches long, and I have received 7 honorary degrees. And yet I think of my life as having been frittered away in trivia. Illusion and reality, reality and illusion, delusion and irreality, disreality and disillusion, irreallusion and unreality. All these became indistinguishable under mescaline. In nature, red can be turned into black, but only in chemistry can black become red. Smoothly, oh so smoothly, we eased into ecstasy. Once the trees were cut down, the hills seemed to bleed, the red earth flowing through the open ground. The principal reason why I no longer sleep with women is my sense that all of them are looking behind me at marriage. History shows that I wrote my first short composition at 12, a longer one at, not 12, but 5, a longer one at 6, a symphony at 7, an opera at 8, as well as several more musical works in the years immediately thereafter. But the premature death of my father when I was 12 forced me to abandon art for the profits of business, which I have since pursued with unending determination.
As the 100th person I had ever seduced, she fulfilled the goal I had set for myself as a teenager. And she in turn would fulfill an ambition that she had cultivated for nearly as long, of being known to posterity.
After my experience at Synapse, I wrote a theoretical text in which I tried to define what I was doing and incidentally distinguished my tapes from other video art. Entitled Literary Video, this essay appeared in several magazines at the time, as well as in program notes to my own screenings, and later in anthologies about video art. In 1977, in a private video studio run by Joanne Caring, I also put the manifesto on videotape, in a visual form that incidentally illustrates one of its points. My cue from Marshall McLuhan, who said, "Of course, in this age of computers, satellites, radio, and television, the writer can no longer be someone who sits up in his garret, pounding a typewriter." Literary video differs from other video art in its base of a text whose language is enhanced rather than mundane, a text that is conceived within the traditions of literature and a contemporary sense of verbal possibilities. Literary video differs from video literary reportage, in which typically a poet is interviewed or is seen reading aloud. For in literary video, the author becomes an artist, exploiting the indigenous possibilities of the new medium. Such possibilities as instant playback, overdubbing, selective vision, image distortion in live time, and so forth. In literary video, the screen is intelligently active, the author-artist visually enhancing his own language. In video reportage, by contrast, the camera's eye is visually dumb. Literary video draws upon both literary materials and video possibilities and integrates them rather than keeping them separate, so that word complements image and vice versa. The video medium itself is closer to books than to film because the TV screen is small and perceptually distant, like the printed page, rather than large and enveloping, like the movie screen. And literary video is customarily read, like a book, in small groups or alone. Because the video image is less precise than the film image, and because the former's light source is not in front of the screen, but behind it, video is conducive not to realism, but anti-realism. Video offers an arsenal of techniques for producing instant distortion, which is to say a surrealism, that because of the screen's size is more painterly, if not literary, than filmic. Nonetheless, the perceptual distance between the viewer and the video screen inhibits the experience of dreaminess. Because the video screen is much smaller than the movie screen, video is not effective at reproducing proscenium theater. Even conventional films look ungainly within such a small frame. Video is conducive to individuals rather than to choruses, to faces and parts of faces rather than milieus, to one or two voices rather than several. The video image tends to be more flat, that is more two-dimensional, more tightly structured, and less cluttered. It tends to be less like a film than a book. Literary video should transcend both the familiar representationalism of conventional television and the conventional syntax of familiar literature. It should also transcend those constraints of subject, theme, and truth that constrict the storytelling of commercial television. An artist making a videotape may, unlike the filmmaker, examine his finished product immediately upon completing it. This process resembles rewriting at the typewriter. The video medium lends itself to the presentation of continuous movement, and thus not to poetry, but to prose and to narrative. Television is a mass medium, video a private one. Television is treasured for its credibility, video for its incredibility. Literary video is destined for an audience that is ideally both visually sensitive and literate. Television for an audience that is neither. My own video work is simple in certain respects and complex in others. And so is most writing. However, I make simple what others render complexly, and make complex certain literary dimensions that others render simply. As a full-time writer, I bring language with which I am familiar to video, which I have scarcely explored. Though I won't abandon one art to do another, that was a 60s fashion, I am, as a creative writer, presently experimenting horizontally, not just vertically within a literary art, but with media other than the small rectangular page. I've recently been making silkscreen prints, offset posters, ladder books, collections of cards, audio tape, and now videotape. Literary video will not supersede the printed page, but become yet another possibility for heightened language.
Another piece from this period is in essence a reading of a truncated verbal text, in which the words for numerals alternate with paragraphs mostly a single word in length. But again, rather than subscribing to the literary convention of showing the author at a lectern or in some other formal, pseudo-literary situation, I decided for my video the realization of me reading this text merited something else.
In a life. 0 birth, 1 teeth, 2 walk, 3 talk, 4 read, 5 school, 6 toys, 7 television, 8 games, 9 swimming, 10 hobbies, 11 books, 12 baseball, 13 football, 14 friends, 15 girls, 16 smoking, 17 sex, 18 college, 19 fraternizing, 20 copulation, 21 study, 22 commencement, 23 military, 24 marriage, 25 job, 26 daughter, 27 promotion, 28 son, 29 responsibility, 30 exhaustion, 31 new job, 32 failure, 33 unemployment, 34 divorce, 35 loneliness, 36 new car, 37 remarriage, 38 extravagance, 39 indebtedness, 40 raise, 41 daughter, 42 perseverance, 43 division chief, 44 speculations, 45 new house, 46 Cadillac, 47 second son, 48 country cottage, 49 overextension, 50 collapse, 51 separation, 52 psychoanalysis, 53 reconciliation, 54 grandchild, 55 prosperity, 56 drinking, 57 new house, 58 bequests, 59 illness, 60, recuperation. 61, leadership. 62, vice presidency. 63, directorships. 64, security. 65, testimonials. 66, retirement. 67, Florida. 68, leisure. 69, solitude. 70, television. 71, reading. 72, religion. 73, weakness. 74, senility. 75, bereavement. 76, measles. 77, death.
During a literary residency at Eastern New Mexico University in 1979, two professors interviewed me about my writing for the television program. To exemplify my work, they invited me to do a conventional reading of my poetry or fiction, my eyes no doubt glancing earnestly from my text to the camera. However, that presentational form is no more acceptable to me on camera than it is in live performance, so often confusing as it does the writer with his or her work and vulgarizing that work in other ways. I insisted instead upon doing something else, which would involve declaiming a text as difficult as recyclings, again superimposing image over image, which would here would be four pairs of bearded lips, all visibly different in size. But now I use video technology that was new to me, the character generator, that electronically produces letters that appear under the screen.
Honor sacred are, and fortunes our lives. Are other each to pledge. Usually we providence divine, of protection thee and reliance firm. A with declaration this of support thee for, and do right of may states independent, which things and acts other all be too, and commerce establish alliances, contract peace, which include war levy. Too powerful have they states independent and free as that, and dissolve totally be to aught and is. Britain great of state, thee and them between connection political all that, and crown British thee to allegiance all that, all dissolved are they. As states independent and free, be to aught right of and our colonies united, these that declare and publish solemn colonies, these a people good thee of authority, by name thee into intentions are of rectitude thee, for world thee of judge supreme, thee to appealing assembled Congress General in America, of states united thee, of representatives thee therefore we. Friends, peace and war, and enemies mankind of rest, to hold we as them hold in separation, are denounces which necessity thee and acquiesce therefore, must we consanguinity of, and justice of voice thee to death, then have two then correspondence and connections are interrupted, never be would dissipation thee disavow, to kindred common are ties thee by them, conjured have we in magnanimity and justice native, there to appeal, have we here settlement and emigration are of circumstances, be of them reminded have we us over, jurisdiction unwarrantable and extend to legislature, thereby attempts of time to time from them warned have we brethren. British are to attention in wanting been, we have nor. People free, A of ruler, thee be to unfit as tyrant, A defined may which act every by marked, thus his character whose price A injury, repeated by only answer to have been petitions, repeated our terms humble most thee in redress, for petitions have we oppressions thee of state, every in, conditions and sexes, ages all, of destruction undistinguished and, is warfare of rule, known as savages Indian, merciless the frontiers are, of inhabitants thee on bring, to endeavored has and us amongst insurrections, domestic excited has he, hands there by themselves fall to or brethren, and friends there of executioners to become to country, there against arms bear the seas high be, on captive taken citizens fellow are constrained has he. Nation civilized A of head, the unworthy, totally, and ages barbarous, most the in parallel scarcely perfidy and cruelty of circumstances, with begun already tyranny and desolation, death works, the complete mercenary foreign of armies, large transporting times, people are of lives, be destroyed in towns, our burnt coasts, our ravaged seas, our plundered has he. Us against war waging and protection is, us declaring by their government abdicated has he. Whatsoever cases all for us or the legislator, to power with invested themselves declaring, and in legislature owns are suspending for. Governments are of forms of fundamentally altering, and laws valuable most are abolishing charters, are away taking for. Colonies these to rule absolute, the introducing, for instrument fit and example at once, as it render to, as so boundaries, its enlarging and government arbitrary, and therein establishing province, neighboring a, laws English, system free, the abolishing for.
Since 1979, I have been writing a text called Epiphanies, which are single-sentence stories that, unlike those mentioned before, not the openings or the closings, but in this case the epiphanies in the James Joycean sense. That is to say that these are the resonant moments that illuminate the entire, but here non-existent story. In my video writing of these texts, I put the words of these epiphanies on the video screen, one story at a time, in various typographical arrangements, and let them dominate the screen for durations roughly equal to the length of the stories. Someone remembering silent movies has joked that my video epiphanies is all titles and no action. And that is true in that the visible words contain the entire action of each story. Nonetheless, this videotape is very much about an alternative experience of reading, not only in concert with others, usually, but at a speed of presentation that, unlike the conventional reading experience, cannot be controlled by the reader. Printing these stories on videotape also represents a viable alternative to traditional publishing. The character generator I used in these video epiphanies is rather primitive compared to what is available. It could use only one style of lettering and one size with only white letters on a black field, and a fixed grid of 24 characters across and 10 lines high. More sophisticated character generators, by contrast, contain various typefaces, expandable to any size that can fit within the screen in a variety of colors. These letters can be programmed to enter the screen from any place along the edge, and then change size in the course of moving across the screen's face in, say, a visual crescendo or, say, a decrescendo. The letters can even be made to perform such acrobatic tricks as flipping over or turning inside out. I also want to compose by myself a new contemporary soundtrack, replacing the Johann Sebastian Bach that you'll hear in the background. It sounds too much like old-time movie music for my taste. Instead, I want to use computer-assisted speech wreath synthesis to take the single word epiphanies, just the word epiphanies, and extend, combine, and vary it in a multitude of ways, with each variation equal in length to one of the stories. Such a soundtrack would necessarily be composed apart from the visual track and would thus draw upon the techniques I've been developing in my audio art. Needless to say, video writing in this form differs radically from how other authors have used videotape. My sense of video art now is that the character generator is my tool, and that my principal creative interest will be exploring this character generator for a video writing that will not supersede the printed page. That's not possible, because the book will always be with us. But instead of video writing to become yet another possibility for presenting heightened, yes, heightened poetic language.
Here is an example of an extended word that is composed from overlapping English words. To be precise, each new word in this string of letters contains at least 3 letters from its predecessor. As it moves across the screen quite quickly, some of the verbal sequences are more visible or more accessible than others, and some are also more witty. So pay close attention. This is the video realization of a text that was originally composed for paper. And I think that as an extended shape of language, or language in an extended shape, it works better on videotape, which is here an effective alternative form for publishing literature. The title of this piece is String 4, and it is part of a set that includes strings 2, 3, and 5 in English, and string 6 in French, and a string 7 in German, and a string 8 in Swedish. I expect to compose similarly extended strings in Spanish and Italian, among other languages. The title of this tape is Video Writing. It was produced and written by me, Richard Kostelanetz. One reason why I don't appear in it, except in examples, is that I'm not the work and should therefore not be confused with the work. Instead of me, you see scenes from an artifact that is profoundly reflective of the sensibility behind the work. What you see is a studio in which I work, with its thousands of books, hundreds of records and cassettes, as well as examples of my earlier work in print, audio tape, videotape, and holography, all of which inform that imagination that produced not only the examples of my video writing, but this retrospective tape. Video Writing was directed by Robert Boynton Wire and edited by Scott Myers in New York City. Video Writing, copyright in 1987 by Richard Kostelanetz.